Welcome to Brews and Business. My name is Jacob Dubois, and today we are chatting with Erica Rankin, a young Canadian entrepreneur who took a passion and turned it into a business. Erica's business is called Brodo, which produces edible protein cookie dough. Erica, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. It's going to be a tasty interview. But before we get started with the questions, we always test the brew. So we have some coffee here to taste. Let's give it a taste. I'll go first. Mine is, it is chocolate truffle from Durango in Colorado. And it is, I'm not a big fan of like flavored coffees, but it's certainly very delightful, especially this time of the year. How about you?
So I got a blonde roast vanilla latte with coconut milk. Because I used to use oat milk and then I wanted to try coconut just because I'm a coconut lover. And I actually really like it. It's really smooth. It's not too sweet. Starbucks usually pumps a ton of the syrup shots into it, but I only got 2 because there was 5, I think.
Oh my God.
I like sweet. I just don't like super, super sweet. So no, it's good. I like it.
That sounds very delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I'm excited to get to know you. And I really want to hear about, kind of the evolution of your professional career. I mean, you're young, but you've done so much already. So it'd be really fun to just hear, what has got you up to this point.
I guess, yeah, my story's kind of been all over the place. I guess so. I graduated high school and then I didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. I went and looked at a bunch of different schools because I wanted to be an equine vet. Like I had horses at the time and I loved horses. And then I learned how long you have to be in school for. And then I thought, maybe not. And then I kind of went in the other direction of psychology because my cousin took psychology. It's one of those things that you can kind of apply to anything. And if you want to build on it, it's pretty easy to build on it. So I studied, got my BA in psychology, graduated that, really loved school, was really good at school. And then I thought, okay, maybe I'll take or get my master's. And then again, I learned how expensive getting your master's was. And then I was kind of on the fence about it. And I was like, well, if I really want to do it, I need to take time off and figure out if it's something that I really want to do, because it's something you have to invest a lot of time and energy into and money. So I started working at a university for about 1.5 years. And I remember just being so, uninspired. And I would just drive into work day after day, 9 to 5, sitting in this cubicle. There was no windows around me. The people that were around me weren't very passionate and excited to be doing what they were doing. And I was kind of just following instructions. I would come in and there'd be a stack of papers on my desk and I would be scanning things and photocopying things and doing data entry and essentially doing stuff that anyone could do. And I was listening to entrepreneurial podcasts and motivational and all that stuff. And I got to a point where my contract ended and I decided to just quit my job. I was living with my parents at the time and I felt like a complete loser. Didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And then I booked a trip to Thailand because I'm very impulsive. And I thought, well, I've never really gone anywhere other than family vacations to Florida or Cuba or the Dominican. So this will be really good for me. I'll get to immerse myself in a different culture, a third world country, and kind of see things from a different perspective, right? Because I grew up in a really small town, kind of really haven't ventured much out of my town at the time. So I remember booking that trip and I was only supposed to go for a month. And then I ended up going for over 3 months. I stayed for Christmas. I stayed for my birthday. It was so scary at first. And then I just started meeting people and it was just I just learned so much about myself and what life meant to me. It's so corny, but it's so true. I essentially went on this trip because I was going through an existential crisis. And I was I need to find myself. And then through this trip and meeting people, I kind of started to learn I guess like unlearn the system that we've been brought up in. Like you're in school, then you have to go and get your job, you have to get an education. There's all these things, like it's kind of by the book, like you should be following a certain timeline. And then I started talking to people who were high school dropouts, who had no college education, who were building and running these successful businesses. And then a lot of people who are nomads and they're just working from their laptop on the beach. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to work for like 3 or 4 hours. And then I'm just going to do what I want for the rest of the day. And then I'm going to like Australia tomorrow. And like, they're just, like living life. And when I started having conversations with them, like you could see in their face that they were just so excited and passionate about what they were doing. And it was completely different to me. Like I'd never talked to anyone who was so excited about work. So I guess I got home and then I sat down with myself. And I remember I was in my mom's living room on the carpet and I was like, okay, I had a note pulled out on my phone. And I'm like, am I going to work for someone else or am I going to try to build something from the ground up? And I've always been super passionate about better for you foods. Like it's something I've always loved. I competed in bodybuilding in 2018 and I always would like manipulate my favorite sweet treats and kind of make them healthier and lower in sugar and more like added protein, all of that. So I figured out a way how to monetize that and create a product that I enjoyed and that the market needed. And that's kind of how it all came about.
That's amazing. So it seems like it just all happened naturally, but I assume, while you were just like impulsively booking this trip and going, at moments, I'm sure you were like, when is this realization going to come to me? Like, what am I doing? But you were intuitive enough to, take the trip, and instead of just working that 9 to 5 and boring yourself for months or years, you kind of just made the move. And so that shows a lot of initiative. And I think it's something that even on a smaller scale, people try to, take little breaks where they're without their laptop or their phone for a weekend, just so that they can kind of take a pause and listen to whatever their body or their mind is saying. So that I definitely commend you for. At the time when you booked the trip, were you considering, it sounds like you were, but did you have a specific outcome that you wanted? Like, after this trip, I know, I want to know this about myself, or I want to be able to pick a career.
I don't even know what I was expecting. I just wanted to get away. And that's one thing that's kind of a blessing and a curse with me. Like I tend to like not run to things, but run away from things in hopes of like, finding a solution elsewhere. I think I just got to the point where I didn't know what I wanted to do and I hadn't traveled. And too, like a lot of my friends that I grew up with, they're married, they have kids, they settled down. And I kind of like, I didn't have that and I didn't want that for myself at the time. So I booked this trip and I think I just wanted to, at the time I felt really ungrateful and I just wanted to like appreciate what I had more and like meet people. And I guess I just wanted to figure out what I was going to do next. Like when I got home, that's what I was hoping for. And luckily enough, I had found an answer and I figured out what it was I wanted to do. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very take it one day at a time. And I didn't really think too far into the future. And I enjoyed it enough to stay an extra 2 months. So
wow. Amazing. All right. So you're home, you have your notes and you're trying to figure out if you want to, take a job or create or build something of your own. And clearly we know what path you took. You built your own business. Can you tell us a little bit more about the product and where the business is at today?
Yeah. So the product is 100% plant-based. It has added protein and it's basically cookie dough that you can eat raw and not bake and eat it right out of the jar. So it's like a more enjoyable way to eat like a protein snack. It's more exciting than a protein bar. And yeah, I started it in December of 2019. And then today I have scaled it enough, making it myself, picking and packing and shipping orders by myself. I have a manufacturer and then we're going to be launching on a larger scale towards the end of the year and then eventually into retail. So it's growing. It's exciting.
That's amazing. And just a quick question. As you progress and as you scale, what are some things that you've realized that you really want to do? And then some things that you just like, you need somebody else to do. You don't want to deal with that.
Manufacturing. I honestly hate it now. It used to be fun at first. Like, honestly, I started this business out kind of as like a passion project. I didn't really have much faith in myself, which sounds terrible. And I was like, you know what? It's going to be like, for example, when I first started, I stored my product in the trunk of my car and drove around with the heat off for like 3 months in the winter. Cause I couldn't afford cold storage. I had a roommate at the time. Like, I couldn't fit in the freezer or anything. So that's kind of like what I did. And I didn't really think long-term in like a scaling sense. Like, I wasn't really sure how it would grow. But yeah, like I got to the point where I'd be in the kitchen like once a week for like all day with no breaks. And then I would bring everything back to my condo and put it in my condo and then pick and pack and ship. And I think like it's important for people to understand the difference between working on the business and working in the business, because I was wasting so much time doing things that I could outsource. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Is I have a manufacturer now. So I'll literally be like, hey, here's a purchase order. And then they'll do a production run and then I'll kind of figure out where it goes rather than me going in and like physically making it myself. Yeah, because it's not very fun anymore.
Yeah, I'm definitely a big proponent of, working in versus on. That's something that I think a lot of people have to discover. And unfortunately, the hard way, at some point you're like, hey, okay, what, I can't get enough done in a day. What's going on? And you realize either by yourself or somebody else tells you like, you need somebody else to be doing the things that are, for lack of a better term, monotonous and, not driving growth in the business. So that's a wonderful realization to have. And it's going to be probably pretty helpful to have some other people doing some things that you're, not super enjoying at the moment, if you will. So what are some things that you are really excited about and you would prefer doing?
I'm really good at like storytelling and marketing. Like, those are kind of my strengths, and really good at building audience, getting people engaged, excited. So I'm good at that side of the business. And then I'm also really excited for like to start selling into stores and just kind of go in and do demos and get people trying the product and securing more accounts and kind of doing that side of the business and growing the business. Because it's been so long of me just basically being a chief everything officer, like one woman show, doing everything. And I'm excited to do the things that I love and that I'm good at rather than do everything because I have to.
Yeah, of course. So I noticed you have a massive engaged following on LinkedIn, and I want to hear, what provoked you to invest in a platform like LinkedIn, especially because, you're so young, and I think the audience on LinkedIn is oftentimes a little older than the two of us. So what made that decision easier to become such an all-star on LinkedIn?
I don't know if I'm an all-star, but yeah, I got on there basically because I was burnt out and I didn't know how to grow my business. And like all my friends worked for the government, 9-to-5 jobs. I didn't have one entrepreneurial friend in my circle. So I think it was 8 or 9 months into building my business. I literally exhausted all my resources. My wheels were spinning. I wasn't getting anywhere. And then I'm like, where can I find someone who has done this before, who can help me? So I went on LinkedIn, and then I basically just started connecting with other founders. And then I started connecting with all of their connections. And it was kind of just like me trying to like gather all these resources and then reach out to them and like hope that they got back to me and could kind of help me and like steer me in the right direction. And thankfully, like a lot of people did get back to me. And I think it's scary as a first-time founder and you're so new to the industry and you think you're so small and like no one's going to acknowledge you or want to give you the time of day, but it's not true. Like to this day, I still have like one of the people that I reached out to, he's my mentor now, and he's helped me with some pretty significant business decisions. So I think like I realize the importance of having a community around you and how helpful it can be, especially as a solopreneur. Like when I get out of bed in the morning, I don't have like a team member that I can message and be like, hey, like, how's it going? Or I'm struggling today. Like, let's go get coffee and like talk strategy and whatnot. Like I'm pretty much on my own. I have to rely on myself for that. So I turned to it out of a necessity. And then in terms of like putting content on there, like I've talked about this before, it's just social media can be so toxic. Like you go on there and it's just like the wins after wins after wins. And it's like, hey, why is no one talking about the L's? Like, where are the losses? I need to see the losses. So I think I felt really discouraged because I felt like I was doing everything wrong and I felt like a failure. And my sales weren't very good at the time. And like, I didn't really know what I was doing because this is completely new to me. So I started having conversations with different founders and then started hearing stories about all the shit that they went through and the hardships and all of that. And I was like, well, how come no one posts about this? Like, no one talks about this. Like, it should be normalized. Like, we need to openly have this conversation that, yeah, like there are some really great things that happen in business, but there are also a lot of things that you have to get through to get there, you know? So I just started like talking more open about my journey. And then I guess people resonated with people and people started reaching out to me and connecting with me. And then it kind of snowballed from there. But yeah, that's kind of how it all started.
Wow, that's inspiring. I think this is like a weird thing that happens where somebody will become successful and they're always asked, how'd you do it? What's your advice or yada, yada. And almost always it's like, well, I just worked hard or, something generic like that, where if you actually peeked into, their life, it was probably pretty stressful a number of times at a number of different moments. And so to open up the envelope, if you will, and kind of understand like, okay, if you want to be this level of successful, you're going to have to go through some stuff. And I think it's really empowering that you saw that wasn't happening. And then you started to do it on LinkedIn. And in turn, what's funny is, people are drawn to that. It's more relatable because that's what people are actually going through. So in turn, you get more followers and, people are actually feel like they're more connected to you because you're sharing the truth. So I really commend you for that. But it doesn't seem like you stop there because, I'm looking at your TikTok and I'm seeing a whole lot of followers for the business TikTok over there. Do you have like any advice for somebody trying to scale their business social media?
Yeah. So I guess just like figure out, I mean, if you're a solopreneur, if you're strapped for cash, strapped for time, go to the platform where your customers spend the most time. So I was spending a lot of time on Instagram and my customers really aren't on Instagram all that much. They're more on TikTok because they're like Gen Z millennials. So I kind of shifted my focus off of Instagram and onto TikTok. So pick one platform and go hard on that one platform rather than trying to split up your time and trying to master all the platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. But yeah, I think just like being consistent with your messaging, being consistent with your posting. Like when I first got on TikTok, I was posting at least once a day. And then when I had my first viral video, I was posting like 3 times a day, which seems crazy. But the more you post, as long as you don't lose the quality of your content, the more likely you are to go viral. So I think, and also too, just being authentic. Like I think showing who you are like behind the camera, because videos that have a person in them perform 35% better than videos that do not usually. Because again, like it's an authentic platform and people like connecting and they like having some sort of, I guess, like more deeper connection with the person on the account.
Wow. I didn't know that. Are there certain people or resources that you look up to and go to when you need? I think you briefly mentioned this on LinkedIn, but during this process, it's hard to start a business. You don't really know where to go. You don't know what to do. Is there some sort of person or specific resource that you've used in order to make some of these, really important decisions?
Yeah, so I have a bunch of mentors, one of which is Mike Fata, the founder of Manitoba Harvest, and he's really awesome. And he's someone that I go to regularly. But for CPG folks, startup CPG, like they're really awesome. They have a Slack community. And if I ever need help sourcing something, or if I have a question about something, I go in there and just post. And then I think there's like 5,000 members or something in that Slack community, which is really great. But honestly, I think just like having people around you, like start building out those connections, like virtually, even through LinkedIn, and just have people there around you whenever you need them. Like I became friends with one girl that I met through LinkedIn like over a year ago. And now like we literally text each other all the time. And I'm like, I'm having a crisis. Can you FaceTime? And she's like on the phone with me. And she's also in the industry and going through the same thing that I'm going through. So I think it's important to have people who are on the same level as you and then also a bit ahead of you, because you can kind of get the help you need to get there because they've been through it.
Yeah. And that makes total sense. The people on you're on a similar level, you can find comfort and, share similar experiences. And then the person that's, on a higher level, they can give you tactical advice to get out of that situation because they've already done it and they've analyzed how their own problem was solved, et cetera. So I think that's really smart. And I really think that's a great strategy. I think maybe we should have a mentor that's, above us, if you will, and then somebody like right on par, or like our peer, so that we can, kind of share our experiences and also like crowdsource a solution to some of these problems. So I really think that's pretty cool. Okay. The question that everyone is asking, and I'm sure you are tired of this, when does this ship to the USA?
Yeah, I'm really working on it. I really am. The barrier is with food, like you have to have certain, I guess there's like the FDA and stuff, like you have to comply with all of these different things getting across the border. And then it's frozen. So it has to be shipped frozen within like a day or two. And there's risk of it being stopped. So I'm hoping by mid 2022, I'll be selling online into the States. Cause operationally right now it's not doable, but it's coming. And I know like I have a lot of friends and people who follow me who really, really want to try it. And I guess you could come across the border to Canada.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's, if you're sick of hearing the question, that should be your answer from now on. Like,
just come to Canada.
Come on up. That's so amazing. Do you have a specific daily habit that has kind of like disproportionately impacted your life?
Yeah. I mean, I used to have really bad habits, really, really bad habits when I first started my business. I would roll out of bed and I would check my emails right away. I wouldn't even eat breakfast, wouldn't eat coffee. It'd be like the first thing that I dove into. And sometimes I would wake up to some really bad emails and then it kind of just sets the tone for the day. So I hired a business coach and I actually did therapy to kind of like figure out what works for me and like what habits to implement in my days to make myself not burnt out and, like let me run the day instead of the day run me. Cause I kind of used to do the opposite. And by the end of the day, I'd be like, what did I even do today? Like, I feel awful. Did I eat lunch? I don't know. So, I think just like practicing mindfulness, like in the mornings, I haven't in a while cause I've kind of been all over the place, but I usually have like a gratitude journal and then I kind of write stuff I'm grateful for, things I'm struggling with, what my goals are, just kind of like putting it all out on paper. And then, practicing mindfulness, like in the middle of the day, I like check in with myself and see like what I need, or if I need a break to like go outside and go on a walk, I like allow myself to do that. Like, I don't really feel guilty anymore for taking breaks. Cause I think there's this big misconception that like through hustle culture, you have to work all the time, like 48 hours a day, like all the time, but that's not it's not sustainable and you're going to get burnt out and then you're not going to be able to do anything and it's going to impact you and the business. And so it's important to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. And it's amazing because one of like the first things that we forget when we run a business, especially on our own, is that, you're the boss. So, you get to decide what time you want to work on the business and what time you want to work on yourself or give yourself time to do this or that. And it's so, because it is very stressful and there's a lot going on, you feel the added pressure, especially if you have customers, in my case, I have clients, you feel like you need to be available all the time, which is just, it's not really the case. You should definitely prioritize a lot of your own mental health. And it seems like you're definitely working to set up a good system so that you can be, long-term more productive. And so I really commend you for that. Do you have a specific like failure of yours or a favorite failure or one that's funny that you want to share?
I have many. I have like many like funny stories. I think for me, like the biggest failure that I've had in my business is me being stubborn and wanting to do everything myself. And I think I forgot that time, especially as a founder, like your time is valuable and you should put a price on it. So I used to do deliveries every Friday, like locally. And I would literally wake up, pack them all into my car, and then start from like, at first it was like only a few hours and it was manageable. But then it got to a point where I think I did 42 in a day or something. Like it was insane and it was all over. And I remember I started driving at 8 a.m. to like 10 p.m. this one day. And it was a very emotional day. And it was my breaking point. And I realized, okay, I can't do everything myself anymore. I need to like get drivers and like have someone do this for me. My last delivery, I think it was like my second last delivery. It was really late at night and it was this giant house in this neighborhood and there was no lights really or anything. It had this long driveway. And I remember going up and dropping it on the porch and trying to be really quiet because it was late and it was a weeknight, right? It was, Thursday or Friday. And I remember backing out and I backed into their ditch. And then they had to come out and the dad came out and then the kids came out and they found me on TikTok and they're like, oh, it's you. I was like, yeah, it's me. I'm stuck in your ditch. So we had to like shovel my car out and then the whole neighborhood started helping because they were like, nosy and like seeing what was going on. And there was like 15 people out here like shoveling my car out of the ditch. And I remember like pulling away and like everyone was clapping. And I was like, hey, I'm never doing this again. This is a waste of time. I need to outsource this. And then after that day, I started hiring drivers and doing deliveries that way. And it was easy as me putting the orders in bags and then going down the stairs of my condo and like handing them off to someone and being done with it. So I just things like that. I'm like, wow, like I could have done this so much sooner. Because I think people are stubborn and they're like, oh, well, it's going to eat into my margin if I have a driver or whatever. But for your own mental health and your time, like I wasted my whole Friday for a few times doing that. But yeah.
Wow, that's wild. And too, like you have to get home and you have to, finally you're checking your emails, you're probably bleeding into Saturday or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing that, and sometimes that's how it goes. Unfortunately, is you have to, you find yourself in a ditch and, that's when you realize maybe.
How did I get here?
Yeah.
How do I avoid this?
Why am I doing this? And so you find alternative solutions.
Yeah.
And that's great too. What was the best part of your day today?
Yeah. I connected with another entrepreneur who's actually based in Toronto too. And he has a cookie company. So I made a new friend and that's always exciting, especially locally because I'm new to the city. So that was kind of a win.
That's great. I love that one. Awesome. I want to personally thank you. I know that you're very busy and I really appreciate you coming on. And that was a blast to learn more about you and the business. And I think there's a lot of great stuff that you've shared with us. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Jacob.
And one last thing, where do people find you? Can they email you? Can they call you? TikTok? Where do you want people to check you out?
So I guess, TikTok, Brodo Canada. You can email me, Erica, ERICA @brodo.ca. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Erica Rankin, and I think Instagram, Brodo Canada as well. So any of those platforms, feel free to message me.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.